All right, so what I want to talk today is a lot of the businesses we work with all have very similar struggles that trying to come up with the direction of who they are and what they want to be, and really just kind of picking the path of where they want to go. So today I want to talk about vision and picking a path. And why this is important is, you know, if you've got your little world here, and you know part of that is as you're standing here, and there's all these different potential paths that you can go, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming when you've got all these different roads that you don't really know where to go to, but you have all these different options. And it can be overwhelming because what ends up happening when you have too many choices is you just stand there and you start circling around, and you get kind of the paralysis by analysis type thing. And so what's really important at some point though is to really just kind of to choose a path and go with it, because if you just stand here and keep twirling around, you're never going to see anything. And so really one way to kind of think about it is if this guy is think about him as you as an entrepreneur as kind of like Indiana Jones or something, the little floppy hat, and you've got, you're down in the temple and you've got this little torch, and what the torch really does is it kind of gives you a view, kind of diffuse circular around you, right? And so you can kind of see what all the different roads go to, where they go just a really short direction. The challenge there though is that you can't really see where it's going. And so what you need to do also is kind of have a little flashlight that allows you to kind of point down one path and kind of see where it goes. And what this allows you to do then is kind of extend that path out a little bit further and really just plant a flag in the sand and say, that's where I'm going. And so if this is where you want to potentially be, and this is about as far as you can see, the important piece here is to say, this is where I kind of want to go, I think, and work backwards and ask the question of, what do you have to do in order to get to here from here, and kind of work backwards. And so where this comes in is really about being able to kind of create something that in your mind that doesn't exist. One of the things that a quote that I've ran across over time is the kind of the difference between managers and leaders, and it's managers maintain what exists, and leaders create what doesn't. And where this comes into play, if you take out leaders and add and put in entrepreneurs, so people who are small business owners or managers maintain what exists. So they keep whatever they're working on, they keep it the same, and they just want to maintain what they've got. But entrepreneurs, they really create what doesn't exist. And so these little blue roads already exist, but an entrepreneur can see out and start to kind of look at that orange road and kind of see what it takes to get there. And so if you extrapolate that out, imagine you've got this long road that you've planted your flag on, and here you are standing back here. Along the way, there's lots of different roads that you're going to potentially be interested in going down. And this is, a lot of entrepreneurs get in trouble with things like this because it's kind of that shiny ball syndrome of try to be everything to all things and try to do so many different things. What ends up happening is you end up just standing there and just kind of swirling and twirling. And so what's important though is to just start kind of moving down this road and stay focused on the path that's ahead of you. It's kind of like when if you've ever been in the grocery store and you've got your cart and you're going down the aisle, and then someone else, you get to like the halfway point and there's that aisle that cross-sects and someone's coming this way, and you're like, I've got the right of way. I'm on my path, you're crossing my path. And really what they're going to probably think the same thing, because to them your path is cross-secting yours. So it's the difference between having a clear path in front of you as opposed to standing in the middle of an intersection and going in all different directions and not really sure where to go. So it's really about just focusing on one path and moving towards it. Now, this doesn't mean that this locks you into this, because don't forget, you've got this torch halo around you the whole time, and so you only can see for so far, and besides that, you're still just kind of building the vision and just kind of guessing. And so what can happen is, as you start moving down the road here, is you can see, well, maybe this isn't necessarily where I want to go. You've learned new things, you've brought on new people, you have new expertise, you have all these things, that maybe it's here now. And so, the kind of the direction of the business has changed a little bit. And you kind of feel like this might be where you need to be, this is where you need to go. But once again, all your torch glow can only get out to here. So then you have to work backwards and say, if this is where I want to be, what do I have to do to get to there? And so kind of building that path out. And so continually, you need to be looking both forward and around and seeing if you need to adjust and continue to adjust up the potential direction of the business, because this will happen. It should happen, because if this stays exactly the same, all you're doing is maintaining what exists. If you continue to push yourself and continue to evolve your business and look for new opportunities and continue to drive it with purpose, then you're creating what doesn't exist. And so that's going to give you lots of opportunities. With goBRANDgo, you originally started as t-shirts, then it was targeted marketing, then it was integrated targeted marketing, and then now we really put ourselves as being the champion of everyday entrepreneur. So what's important about that is, as you continue to walk down the road, your sights are going to change. Anytime you're driving down the road, the vista changes. And so you're going to be able to start seeing things and connecting things that you wouldn't back here, or you wouldn't being stuck in this small sphere. And so it's important to continue to kind of pay attention to what's going around you and continue to challenge yourself on seeing if it needs to change and needs to evolve, because that also affects how you're going to prepare for this journey. Because if you think about, if you're going to hike in the tundra, in the frozen tundra, versus hike in the desert, you're going to bring different things, you're going to prepare differently, you're going to train differently. And so the challenges that you come up against, you're going to take on those lessons in different ways, depending on where this dot is. And so where it kind of comes even further is, these are kind of evolutions of things. Where the really big innovations come from is if something's just kind of way out here in no man's land, and there's not anything close to it, and then you've really got to there's a really big gap between kind of where things are, where the market is, what's possible, and what it would take to get to here. And so a lot of these kind of situations are really where the big innovations are, that there might even be a gap in what is possible. It could be that, think about YouTube. If you would have been YouTube, 10 years ago, there's no way that they could have created this path the whole way, because the missing variable was bandwidth. So there's sometimes there's certain things that are missing that you need to have market conditions change, you need to have bandwidth change, you need to have technology continue to evolve in order for your idea to come. But what that can't get in the way of is continuing to say, if this is where I want to go, what do I need to do and what does it look like to get there? And so that's when you can start building backwards, and you can say, well, when the technology in this slot gets to where it needs to be, that's when I can get to here. But along the way, you can continue to be working on building up the things that you need to prepare for that journey. So this comes into play also, as entrepreneurially minded people, is a lot of times there's so many opportunities and there's so many things that we're interested in, there's so many things that we want to do, it can get to be a little overwhelming and you can't really focus on any one thing. And so you sit there and you just kind of have your head spinning and not really sure what to do. And so the beautiful thing about being able to take this approach is that you can start building all of these things out and kind of see where they go. And it doesn't cost anything. There's not any really bad things that are going to happen, because all you're doing is a mental exercise of saying, if I planted my flag here, what would this look like and what would it look beyond it? If I planted it here, what would I need to do to get to here, and what would it look like behind it? And so what you can do is just continue to run through this mental exercise of trying to figure out, what is the direction of my business, of my life, of what I want to do. And if you can continue to do this and build backwards from that flag back, then you can run that mental exercise and you really get the experience of doing it without ever having to leave your own little mental cloud. And so this is an important part of any journey of entrepreneurially minded people or of entrepreneurs in general, because as this continues to change and evolve with market conditions, you've got to have a plan of how to use the assets that you currently have, or to go out and get the things that you need to get in order to continue to serve that evolving, changing mission. And so, for people watching the video, what I want to know is, how is your vision, how has your direction changed over time, and how has that evolved in your business, and maybe for the better or for the worse, and how have you dealt with that change?